Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
Go find out.
Guarding light in secret places, betrayed, broken, torn apart. Still the vow burns in the heart. Hearing voices, quiet prayer, scattered seeds still waiting there. In the shadows, time stood still, but the mission holds it always will. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical. The final hour, truth revealed in holy power. Through the decades they were called. Fathers, mothers gave their all. Wives and warriors, sons of flame, bearing witness in God's name. Quiet strength behind the veil, standing strong when others failed, waiting for the trumpet's cry. The army rises side by side. Nothing can stop what is coming. The fire, the thunder, the drumming. It's gonna be biblical. The final hour, truth revealed in holy power. Through the storm, the veil will tear. Evil
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. Hope everybody is doing well out there and having a great evening, a hump day. Sorry we had no show yesterday. My kids had their wrestling banquet, and it went well, but we got out really late, and so hopefully you guys got to catch us on DEF CON 0 on Badlands Media. I unleashed, man. It's weird not having a show ahead of time. You have so much to say, and Alpha just let me go, so that was kind of nice. But tonight, man, we're gonna try to unleash again tonight because there's a lot to go over, a lot of things happening. Some things I talked about last night that I said, hey, you're gonna see this happening. It's happening today. And this is kind of the trend that we're seeing. And a few different messages first before we get started with the news. Sup, House of Stones. He says, sup, Josh. It's funny. I thought I was the only one who uses that sup, S-U-P, sup. Tonight, after this show, directly after this show, there is a live Q&A with myself. And so, a live Q&A with myself. And if you want to attend that live Q&A, it's pretty easy. All you have to do is be a premium subscriber. It's what, $5 a month. Buy me one coffee a month and you can get into these live Q&As. And where do you find the information about that live Q&A? How can you subscribe? Well, it's really easy. You can go directly to the website, redpills.tv, and we'll put this link up here so everybody can see it. And yep, there it is. That's the website right there, redpills.tv. And you just type that in, redpills.tv, and you should find us. And then you can go to the website, and right into the website, you go to the premium tab right there at the top, and you're going to see premium access, and it's going to give you our X subscriptions. It's going to give you SUBSTACK, Social Red Pill, our private social media network, YouTube memberships, and locals. And if you're on any of those 5 platforms, you can get in on that live Q&A tonight. So make sure you guys are subscribed over there. And there's tons of other stuff over here as well. Obviously, ways to support us, Rumble Wallet, Cash App. We don't have Venmo, sorry. Our Give, Send, Go campaign, always continuously trying to raise that money to keep this show going. And so that's give.redpills.tv for that one. And then our sponsor information, you can go into here and you can find a list of our trusted partners that help support our show. The newest one out there, Lifewave, the X39 patch. I mean, you guys just need to go check this out. And just click that Learn More button, and it'll take you to the page that I built out exactly for Lifewave and for X39. And for everybody out there that's filling out the information below, I will have access for you in the next day or so to the video that was done last Saturday. But if you guys want to check out Lifewave, get into Lifewave, you can go to life.redpills.tv, life.redpills.tv, or you can just go on over and look at our sponsors page on redpills.tv. So appreciate you guys letting me get that out of the way. And we're going to also do this real quick. We're going to get this first ad out of the way from Rumble. And let me pull this down real quick. And then we're going to jump right into it. We're going to start off with some bangers, dude. I promise you. Okay. So Rumble Wallet, people, if you don't know what Rumble Wallet is, you need to check it out. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. Wallet.rumble.com. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's get into this. So the Department of War CTO site today put out a doozy, and I love it. I love breaking this stuff down. This is my passion of breaking this stuff down. And let's look at this one right here. They said Now, like our ancestors before us, we are venturing out to explore a new magnificent frontier. And they posted this graphic, American dominance, and they have all these words spread throughout all of it. Well, I went through and I broke all this down, and it kind of reads like a paragraph. Number one, American dominance, right at the top and the bottom. That's 17 letters in those two words. Just saying. I don't believe in coincidences there. Commander-in-Chief comes first, and then it lists POTUS, 45, 47, and GOAT, greatest of all time. And then, in quotation marks, patriots are in control. Our job is to establish deterrence. Then we provide red carpet for industry. We increased efficiency. We defend the homeland. We become the AI first department, peace through strength, and we give the enemies nightmares. That's what I said. It kind of reads like a paragraph, but I just think it's another reassuring message directly to Anons and people who are paying attention that, hey, listen, this is the storm. Nobody said that the storm is going to be easy. It's going to be pretty chaotic. It's going to be pretty crazy. Just relax. Patriots are in control. So at least that's my thoughts on this. Now, let's go into a lot of the controversy that is happening today. Stephen Miller today discussing Iran. And let's bring this up. I didn't want to bring that up full page. Sorry. Let's bring this up and listen what he had to say.
The American military objective is to neuter the regime, to render them impotent. That is what President Trump is doing. Day by day, the regime is being rendered impotent in terms of being able to wield instruments of national power against the world. Ultimately, the Iranian people will have to decide for themselves what kind of future they want. But President Trump will not allow this regime, this bloodlusting regime, to hold us hostage with energy blackmail, missile blackmail, or nuclear blackmail.
Okay. So that's Stephen Miller's take on what's happening over there, right? And I reposted this with my own perspective. I said, there's two reasons why this war needed to happen and happen now. And I've been adamant about this since the get-go. I even called this months ago, a year ago. 2024, I was talking about Iran and when Trump comes in and Israel and the regime change that's underway. And then when Venezuela happened back in August, September timeframe, we said, well, Iran is coming up. Iran's going to be next. So number one, energy. Number two, China. And number three, you can look at it as threats and hostilities. Remember, this isn't about yesterday's conflicts. This is about tomorrow's wars. On the other side of this all, and this is something that we've all talked about here, I 100% expected Israel to exploit this into a larger war for their own interests. The question then becomes, what's Trump's next move? And that's why tonight's show is called Game Theory. Because we're going to talk about what Trump is potentially doing right now. I mean, it's all about controlling the narrative, which it's very difficult to do in an information war, especially when you have so many conflicting narratives. But looking at kind of a few different things that I learned today, and I can't get into some of that, but a few different things that I learned today and putting things together, I'm starting to see a more clear picture of potentially what's actually unraveling. And this is the thing about getting information in, is you begin to see a larger purview of what's actually unfolding. So what do we have? Trump wants no. So we wake up to this morning and you see headlines stating that U.S. and Israel bombed Iranian gas fields. From the get-go this morning, when I first saw that headline, I said, no, it wasn't the U.S. U.S. had nothing to do with it. Now, Trump comes out today and says Trump now wants no additional strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure after initially supporting the Israeli strike in South Pars. He didn't even know about it. The world's largest natural gas field has a message to Iran over blocking the Straits of Hormuz. It's actually bullshit. Trump did not know about this. And so this is kind of where this convergence coalesces with what Joe Kent is coming out and saying. And we're going to get into that whole narrative and my thoughts on it in the context of game theory. So Israel, this is kind of the info that I got today. Israel launched this attack, and then it was reported that the U.S. took part in it. Trump knew nothing about it and was livid when this happened again, because they did it last week. Why would Israel do this? Why would Israel not inform the U.S. military that they're going to bomb an Iranian gas field a week after they bombed Iranian oil plants, oil refineries, and Trump sent Jared Kushner and Witkoff over to Israel to tell Israel, enough of that shit, don't do that again. So why would Israel do it again? Our best and perfect ally wants war. Their war. They want Iran gone, and they can't do it without Trump. Trump has already stated that this war is over and there'll be no troops and no 10-year war. In other words, Israel is trying to force Trump's hand. They are trying to produce a larger regional war of which U.S. ground troops get engaged. They are exploiting Donald Trump's motivations, objectives, military objectives for Iran, and trying to exasperate it beyond what Trump basically came on to do. So what else I said? Trump said don't, and they and wanted Israel last week by sending Kushner and Witkoff. We just talked about this. Israel wants an all-out war, ground invasion, and complete annihilation of Iran. Trump has other plans, and their operations are basically over. Israel can't survive this war alone. They need some type of event that draw on a larger regional war. But I think Israel is going to have problems now convincing the world of a larger regional war. We'll get into that because of what Joe Kent is doing. So, Mario Newall, and he had this post today, and I agree with what he's saying here. This is quite interesting. And for some reason, the post isn't coming up. Did he delete it? Weird. Well, he comes out and says, we may not like this, but we need to say it. China drew first blood. This is true. China weaponized rare earth minerals and metals. It weaponized accessibility to ports and corridors, mineral corridors and energy corridors. And it's been operating off of this monopoly for well over a decade. So China began this by firing the first shots because China, as well as the United States, knew where this was heading. But under Joe Biden, this country started declining and giving up way to China. And China just couldn't progress fast enough. Now, this also adds into the idea of why Donald Trump wants Iranian uranium. Now, say that 5 times fast. Iranian uranium. Iranian uranium. Oh, man. That's a rough one. But here's the idea. Trump has been saying over the last few weeks that he wants to send Delta Force, or he wants to send special operators or the Marines into Iran on a special operation to get their uranium. Now, this is interesting because Israel says, no, we're just going to bomb it. Russia came out and said, no, we'll take it. Trump told Putin, no, we're taking it. Now, why does Trump want Iranian uranium? Number one is you have to look at this from the strategic point of view. If Israel's claim is that Iran has the capabilities to basically refine uranium further than 60% and make nuclear warheads or dirty bombs, advancing their ballistic missile technologies, and they become a threat because of that, then this is where we start to see Donald Trump's thinking. If we completely decimate Iran's nuclear capabilities by taking out all of their nuclear power facilities and their nuclear military facilities, if we completely decimate their ballistic missile manufacturing and processing capability and their drone processing capabilities, we take out the 75% of their launchers that they have, and then we take their uranium, well, then there is nothing left for Israel to come out on the surface and say, well, what about this? What about this? In other words, Israel's objectives become met when Donald Trump reduces or limits the capabilities of the IRGC and the regime. At least that's the thinking. But there's a deeper strategy here. The deeper strategic layer here and this is what many people are missing when it comes to Iran, Russia, and uranium. This isn't geopolitics. It's about control of the energy stack. If uranium is entering a structural supply crunch, whoever controls mining, enrichment, and fuel supply controls nuclear expansion. The Department of Energy since 2025 has been expanding nuclear capabilities. They've been out there generating micronuclear reactors and trying to get these housed in every single U.S. military base by 2030. Companies like Microsoft, Meta, and Google and Amazon are out there purchasing commercial nuclear power facilities. Why? Because data centers are going to run off of nuclear energy. Now, what does that do? It increases the amount of uranium mines, of uranium refineries that need to be had. Well, uranium is actually very, very scarce, way more scarce than gold and silver. With that being said, is as data centers become more and more rampant and start putting a pressure on the electric grid, you're going to need more nuclear facilities. As these nuclear facilities come up, you need more accessibility to uranium. You see where I'm going with this? The only scalable baseload power for AI infrastructures, data centers, and industrial reshoring is uranium, is nuclear. Now zoom out. Why Iran? Iran sits on uranium reserves, strategic geography of the Hormuz checkpoint. We talked about this, of the energy corridor, and influence over regional energy flow, as well as a massive supply of oil. Neutralizing or controlling that supply isn't about weapons. It's about removing a future supply risk, securing long-term nuclear fuel access. Now with Russia, because you got to remember, Trump lifted certain sanctions off of Russia, with Arctic LNG now releasing millions of barrels and reducing oil and gas prices, at least temporarily. Russia historically dominates enrichment capacity and nuclear fuel processing. And Kazakhstan, they have one of the largest uranium mines in the world that Russia has direct access to. You can't scale nuclear globally without dealing with that reality. So a shift in U.S.-Russian relations, it's happening, wouldn't just be political. It would be supply chain realignment. It would be securing the enrichment access and stabilizing nuclear fuel markets. If you put it all together, the U.S. is positioning for AI dominance, energy independence, and industrial expansion. Controlling the uranium supplies then becomes as critical as controlling the oil supply. Now, I also want you to think about Trump and Canada. What has Trump said about Canada? Canada should become the 51st state. Why? Because Canada, northern Canada, has a massive uranium deposits. So Iran has uranium deposits, Canada has uranium deposits, Russia has uranium deposits. Trump is attacking Iran. He's basically downgraded Canada and wants them to become the 51st state. And then Russia is becoming a new trade type of alliance partner. And every other move that he's made has been specifically about energy and energy accessibility, energy trade corridors, and energy surplus supplies. Now, Trump wants to go in and get uranium. Now, they're saying it's in the middle of the country, deep in caves. No, it's not. It's on Karg Island. Is it a theory? Maybe. It's on Karg Island. Why would Iran isolate the refined uranium on Karg Island? Number one is because nobody will ever bomb it. Nobody's ever going to bomb their oil infrastructure. It just would disrupt the global energy system too much. And then the closing down of the port, the Straits of Hormuz. Number two is Iran has the capability to defend at all costs Karg Island. My thought, their uranium is in Karg Island. Now, what is this all about? DNI Tulsi Gabbard puts this out there for everybody to hear. What this is all about. And yes, she's asked and questioned about Iran today, but I want you to listen to what she says right here.
The IC assesses that China is the most capable competitor in the field of artificial intelligence. The IC assesses that AI capabilities are rapidly advancing and changing the threat landscape, as this is a defining technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning comprehension, problem solving, creativity, and autonomy, it will be critical to ensure that humans remain in control of how AI is used and of the machines that may threaten to autonomously violate the interests of the American people across all domains. AI adoption at scale across the spectrum of usage poses serious risks. AI has the potential to aid in weapons and systems design and has been used in recent conflicts to influence targeting and streamline decision-making, underscoring the risk and likely threats that could manifest on the battlefield. Early developers in quantum computers will give countries an extraordinary technological advantage over others to quickly process national security information and break current encryption methodology used to protect sensitive finance, healthcare, and government information.
Those are her opening statements. What is she trying to tell you? That China is a threat, that AI dominance is the fight, that this is all about acquiring the resources necessary for artificial superintelligence dominance, because whomever controls artificial superintelligence is going to control tomorrow. They're going to control the future. They're going to control this new world order that is being developed right now for the next 100 years. And that cutting China off at every avenue, at every angle that you possibly can, is the desire of this administration. And it is the point of all of the warfare that we're seeing right now. Whether they say that's because we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, doesn't fucking matter. The idea is that this had to happen. That Trump at some point has got to go in there and he had to secure Iran. Why? Because China had 3 parts of energy domination: Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. This is where China gets oil on the open markets at 30% of retail value under Western sanctions, and has a controllability force for all Middle Eastern oil with the control of the Straits of Hormuz through their military ally of Iran. They controlled the Panama Canal, which was then on one side of the Panama Canal, by the way, was Venezuela, of which they controlled Venezuela. So now you had China controlling 2 of the largest oil deposits in the world, with 2 of the largest energy corridors in the world under Chinese control. If that continued forward, China would win. China would dominate. We would be shut out of the world. What did Trump do? He took back the Panama Canal. He took out Maduro. He freed and released Venezuela, and now controls Venezuelan oil through the United States of America. What's he doing to Iran? He's doing the same damn thing. Instead of going in and taking Maduro and drawing him out, he went in and they decapitated Iranian clergy and the IRGC command structure, and now they're looking to control the Straits of Hormuz, or at least relinquish control to other Gulf nations, and reducing and eliminating the threat to the Straits of Hormuz being shut down as an energy corridor, but also relinquishing control of the one country that operates in the shadows that not many people talk about or make the connection to. Because China is the big dog. China's the one that is going to obtain AI dominance if we didn't do anything, if Trump didn't do anything. But China is a surrogate of something else. China is a creation of the post-British empiricism. Hong Kong. British financiers and other Western financiers are what built up Mao and his Industrial Revolution, who built the manufacturing base within China with Western money coming directly from UK and from London banks and from other Western financiers who are within this New World Order agenda. So if China controls it, they control it. Because where does that money flow through? That money flows through London. That money flows through the Isle of Man. That money flows through the international banking cartel. This is why Kirill Dmitriev had this to say today. And when you see it, you see it. So the Qatar reports extensive damage from an Iranian missile strike at Ras Al-Khaimah, the world's largest LNG facility. And what's Kirill say? Bad for the world, catastrophic for the EU. Why? Over the last few days, I've been pointing out that the UK, the EU members these large financial institutions and corporations, British Petroleum, KNG, so forth, they own large swaths of Middle Eastern oil companies, privately, commercially, and they control it. Last night, I pointed this out in the sense of when the Straits of Hormuz actually closed down, Lloyd's of London, 100-plus-year-old company, which issues the insurance for, I believe, for over 80% of all maritime traffic through the Straits of Hormuz, basically dropped all of their insurance on all the ships. That's why the ship stopped. It wasn't because they physically couldn't go through the Straits of Hormuz. There's no drawbridge that comes down and blocks it. It's because the insurance was dropped. Well, Trump countered this almost immediately by coming out and saying the United States of America will provide all insurance and cover any company that goes through the Straits of Hormuz. Lloyd's of London immediately came back in there and re-upped their premiums. Now, Peter Navarro, as I've talked about, I think I talked about this Monday, it's called the Iran Terror Premium. And basically, anytime the Ayatollah, the IRGC would threaten the Straits of Hormuz or launch attacks within Hezbollah, Houthis, whatever it might be, is you would have an increase in the insurance premium to move through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, who does that benefit? That benefits UK companies. It benefits Lloyd's of London, these insurance brokers, massive trillion-dollar insurance brokers. Peter Navarro actually calculated this over the last 30 years. It's like $30 trillion. I think, well, 50 years. It's like $30 trillion for the Iran terror premium. And what does that mean? It means that when we start to look at Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, we start seeing that Khomeini, the original Ayatollah that came directly from France. He was living in the UK, had a house in the UK. He was flown in by France after the BP oil and the MI6 took out the Shah. Implemented him, then took him out because he wanted a new deal on the oil prices. And then what happens is they put in the Ayatollah, which goes back to the original deal, but everything gets done under the table. So now that it's like tax-free and you don't have to worry about international surcharges. And every time that the big corporations and banks and insurance companies wanted to make massive amounts of money, all they would have to do is have Iran threaten the Middle East, and insurance premiums would skyrocket. And not only insurance premiums, but the price of gas. Gas would go up $5 to $15 a barrel. And so they make a killing off of this because UK companies own a massive amount of the oil within the Middle East. And this is one of the things that's actually being relinquished right now. Now, interesting enough, oil prices skyrocketed the other day, and the next day they came tumbling down. And now this is the idea that this has all been planned for a very, very long time. What did Trump do? They came out, and Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, came out, and he reduced Russian sanctions by limiting a controlled release of Russian oil. What type of Russian oil? Oh, just the Russian oil that's been sitting at sea that was in a usable format that they could ship out, a few million barrels, right? Well, where was that Russian oil at? Well, it was up in the towards the Arctic. Well, when did Russia put it there? The day after the Arctic summit. So Putin goes out to the Arctic summit with Trump, meets. The next day, he loads up Arctic LNG, the company, with massive amounts of oil on their tankers, and they let them sit out at sea with no buyers. And then all of a sudden this happens. Putin looks like a prophet. The U.S. releases sanctions and releases that oil to bring down the price of oil, as if Russia was well aware of this was going to happen. This is why I'm not afraid of what's happening, and I can kind of see a bigger perspective of what's really going on, that this wasn't just Israel pushing the way through to try to make this happen, but there is a containment objective there, that Trump and Putin planned this overthrowing of Iran, of what's going on right now. So, pretty interesting right there, isn't it? When we start to look at the global perspective that, yeah, there really is a sovereign alliance. They are working together, and it's really about dismantling the control infrastructures of the world financial, the central banks, the European central banks, the large financial institutions, the insurance institutions that have basically consolidated power globally for the last 100 years through their infrastructure. And once that infrastructure is dismantled and no longer relevant, then the world can move on towards a true free market dynamic. Now, this was interesting. This came out this morning. I don't think there's any names released with this. Let's switch the conversation, but not really. It's going to switch a conversation, but we're going to transition lightly and then integrate everything back into it.
Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, will be testifying this morning. Does the president still have full confidence in her?
He does, yes, and we look forward to watching the director's hearings today. And I think that anyone who has been suspected of leaking or is proven to be a leaker will not be welcome in this administration. I know that for a fact because I've heard the president say it myself. There are investigations underway into leakers in this administration, and people will be held accountable for that. It's unacceptable and it cannot be tolerated.
Now, that's kind of interesting. That was part of my discussion literally last night, that there's leakers. Well, what just came out today after she said that? Listen to this.
A moment ago, sources are saying that Joe Kent, the former director of the United States National Counterterror Center, this is from Semaphore, he just resigned. He's now under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. And the investigation predates his departure. Congressman, your reaction to that tonight? Wow.
Well, there's a lot there, and I think that we need to let this investigation play out, but we shouldn't tolerate any leakers in the administration, particularly.
Now, isn't that interesting? If you listened to me on DEFCON 0 last night, this is exactly what I said. It's exactly what I was talking about. Now, I also said that Joe Kent would be scheduled on Tucker Carlson probably within 24 hours. And sure enough, Joe Kent is on Tucker Carlson tonight. And he had some interesting things to say. Some of it I agree with. Some of it I don't. Some of the things that he says are very, very truthful. Some of the things that he says, I think, are opinion and speculation because he didn't have access. Because from what we've confirmed, Joe Kent 3 months ago was limited to classified information. His security clearance was pulled and he was under investigation. Now, let's listen to this real quick. Joe Kent tells Tucker Carlson that President Trump's administration misled the world about Iran being an imminent threat. And who does he blame as the real threat? Let's listen to this.
I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. How did you reach that conclusion?
I think this is key. I mean, this would be more challenging to explain had the Secretary of State, the President, and the Speaker of the House not come out and said that we conducted this attack at this time because the Israelis were about to do so. So that takes away the argument that there was an imminent threat, as in Iran was planning to attack us immediately. That just simply did not exist.
May I ask you to pause? Sure. And so I've heard people say that, and this just happened, but history has a way of getting rewritten in real time, and then you look back 10 or 15, 20, 25 years later, and no one seems to understand the things that you saw because they've been eliminated. Yeah. So I think it's important to stop and say, here's what we actually know. So I'd like now, if we could, just to play one of the statements that you alluded to, and that's from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. And this was shortly after this war commenced. And he was explaining, as is his habit, in a thoughtful, precise way, why. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Okay. Marco Rubio is spot on correct. But there's a part out there that's left out. We'll get into that here in a second.
Okay, so that is his almost contemporaneous explanation, and it's not offhand. He reasons it out. He explains there's a logic chain there, and he says, we knew not that Iran was going to attack. He did not say that.
Right.
He said we knew that Israel was going to attack Iran, and in retaliation for those attacks by Israel against Iran, Iran might attack American forces. So the imminent threat that the Secretary of State is describing is not from Iran, it's from Israel.
Exactly. And I think this speaks to the broader issue. Who is in charge of our policy in the Middle East? Who is in charge of when we decide to go to war or not? In this case, with what the Secretary described, and later on the President, later on the Speaker of the House, and the way the events played out, the Israelis drove the decision to take this action, which we knew would set off a series of events, meaning the Iranians would retaliate. Now, I think there's a potential there where we could have done several different things. We could have simply said to the Israelis, no, you will not. And if you do, then we will take something away from you. I think that it's fine that we offer defense to Israel. But when we're providing the means for their defense, we get to dictate the terms of when they go on the offensive. Otherwise, they stand to lose that relationship. And the Israelis felt emboldened that no matter what they did, no matter what situation they put us in.
Okay. So that's one part of what Joe Kent is talking about here. Okay. Now, he also comes out and he says some other things. And these are going to be very, very relevant to a lot of what's happening. And trust me, I'm taking notes. I'm going to go over everything that's being said, and I'm going to tell you what, from what I gather, is what happened and why he's potentially wrong on what he's saying, but he's right on what he's saying. Let's listen to this part.
What they did was they created basically a shifting red line or a new red line. So that if the president's red line was Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, we've actually got a lot of trade space in there for a deal to be made. Because of what I just described with the Iranian policy. Essentially, the Iranians saying, okay, well, we don't want a nuclear weapon. Well, that means we basically are at a point where we can start negotiating and we can come up with a deal. And the president is a fantastic deal maker. So if your goal is to move us away from any kind of deal and your goal is to move us into a conflict, you have to shift that red line. And that's where a lot of this, I would say, what became a de facto U.S. policy of Iran can have no nuclear enrichment. It was laundered through a lot of the different talking heads, Mark Levin, Mark Dubowitz. You've got the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, you name it. Washington, D.C. has plenty of pro-Israeli lobbyists who will come and say those things, who will publish think pieces on it, who will go on the media, who will run op-eds in the Wall Street Journal to talk about this, why they can't have any enrichment whatsoever. And then we have a high degree of engagement with Israeli government officials who will come in and say, well, they're enriching and they could enrich.
Okay. So number one is Israeli propaganda basically going in there and moving the red line and prompting that to people in the decision-making process. Okay. Here's next what he says, and this is kind of very damning, but actually very true in what he's saying. Now, a lot of the things that Joe Kent is saying are not false, but there's context that has to be brought into this.
And just to be clear, there was no intelligence that showed an imminent threat. There was no intelligence that showed they were on the cusp of building a nuclear weapon. There was no intelligence, indeed, that showed they were trying to build a nuclear weapon. And nobody said, I've seen it, but you haven't. It exists, but you just haven't seen it. Did you ever hear anybody say there is intel that shows this?
I did not know, but I know how this works. I know the Israeli officials.
Okay, right there. I'm going to stop that right there. What he just said right there was no to Tucker's question. You got to remember, for the last 3 months, Joe Kent lost his security clearance. He's not in the briefings. He has been shut out of intel. Okay? So what he's saying there is true, but it's not true in the context that Tucker framed it. Tucker's saying, so there is none. And he's saying, oh, I never saw it. Does that make sense? No one ever told me, and I never saw it, so therefore it is not, so therefore there is none. That's not true. The way Tucker's frame it and the way Joe Kent is answering is propaganda. So Tucker's basically saying, so you're telling me there is no intelligence whatsoever done by the United States of America that validated that Iran had was developing a nuclear weapon or was an imminent threat. And then Joe Kent says, no, there wasn't. Well, that's not true. Joe Kent didn't have access to that information. We know that other cabinet members of Trump's administration were shut out of this because of threats of intel leaks. And I believe it was just Hegseth, Rubio, Dan Kane, and Trump in Vance that were the only ones involved in these discussions. And then you had Ratcliffe, who was providing CIA intelligence. You had DIA intelligence coming in, and you had other types that were being weighted, but nobody else in the Trump administration was actually involved in this decision-making process or were seeing the intelligence that the decision makers were actually looking like, especially Joe Kent. So the way Tucker frames that is bullshit, and the way Kent answers it is kind of a misdirection. But let's go on.
Some in intelligence, some in government will come to U.S. government officials, and they will say all kinds of things that we know from our intelligence just simply isn't true. And they'll say, hey, I'm giving you a preview. It's not in intelligence channels yet, but here's what's going to happen. And that doesn't usually come to
wait a second. I mean, I thought that U.S. policymakers made their decisions on the basis of intelligence collected and or vetted by our intelligence. That's why we have intelligence agencies that soak up hundreds of billions a year. But you're saying that Israeli officials short-circuited the entire U.S. government and just went right to American policymakers and said, it doesn't matter what your country says, here's what we know. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, usually they're pretty slick, and they'll say, hey, this isn't in intelligence channels yet because it's going to take some time to get there. And here they're on the cusp of building a bomb. You know, they're going to, I don't know, you pick your topic. A lot of times they'll sample different things until they find what sticks. But in general, the narrative about, you know, they're going to do a preemptive attack, or really just they're going to build a nuclear weapon. And if we don't stop them now, they're going to build a nuclear weapon. And enrichment is the pathway to that. They're going to continue enriching at whatever percent. Enrichment became the narrative.
Okay. I've kind of had enough with that. And I think there's one more. It's the Charlie Kirk connection. That last time that Joe Kent says, the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June. He was in the West Wing. He looked at me in the eye and he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. One of President Trump's closest advisors was vocally advocating for us not to go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis. And then he suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about it. Huge. The investigation that I was a part of, Joe Kent, with the National Counterterrorism Center, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. But there was still a lot of us to look into that I really can't get into. That's unanswered questions. So really important there. Now, what do I think's happening with Joe Kent, with Tucker, and all of this? Number one, let's just say this, and this is where your mind needs to go, at least in my opinion. If the allegations of Joe Kent are accurate and that the U.S. intelligence agencies can produce no validation of Israeli intelligence claims, nuclear weapon development program, preemptive strikes on U.S. assets, then we are about to have a shitstorm opened up. From sources we have talked to, these threats were validated by U.S. intelligence, and Iran was wargaming preemptive strikes on both U.S. military assets and Israeli. Okay? So when he says that Israel basically said that they were going in, and we knew that that was when Rubio said this and Joe Kent said this, that Israel said that we're going to go in, is because Israel had intelligence that they were sharing with the United States of America saying that Iran was done with the negotiations, was going to preemptively strike U.S. assets and Israeli assets. And Israel had made the decision, we are going in. So when Marco Rubio comes out and says, that, you know, Israel had told us that they are going in, and we knew that if they went in alone, U.S. lives would have been lost, and so we decided to go in with them. That is truthful, but it has to come from that context, that there's a reason why Israeli had that intelligence. And Bibi Netanyahu went to Mar-a-Lago, met with Trump, or was it the White House, met with Trump a few weeks before this started, and he showed Trump the intelligence. And Trump said, we're going to confirm this through our own channels. They confirmed this intelligence. U.S. intelligence confirmed that, yes, Iran this is the word that was used to me when this was explained to me. Iran was wargaming preemptive strikes on Israel and the United States. Wargaming preemptive strikes on Israel and the United States when negotiations fail. Israel had that intelligence and said, we're going in. We don't care what you guys, we're going in. And Trump said, well, if you go in, we're going to lose a lot of U.S. lives, so we're going to go in. That is what this is all about in the sense of what these guys are talking about. And Joe Kent is leaving a lot of information on the table that he did not have access to and he does not have. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I'm not saying that Joe, how dare you? I'm not saying that Joe is even controlled opposition. I'm saying that Joe Kent didn't have that information or intel, at least as far as I know. Now, how did I have it? We got some really good connections, and it came out after the fact, so it wasn't necessarily leaked or anything like that. But if Joe is telling the truth, and there is no evidence that exists, then we are about to see a shitstorm that will ultimately end with the U.S.-Israel relations in the crosshairs. And it doesn't even matter. The fact that this has just come out, that Joe Kent is saying these things on Tucker Carlson, you have to start aligning your mind to game theory. If you were a Donald Trump and you knew that members of Congress and the DOD and our intelligence community were compromised by a foreign intelligence agency that could swing and manipulate their opinions in a certain way, and that you had really good working basis relationship with this country, and you know that the moment that you start dropping bombs on Iran, Israel is going to exploit that. They're going to do everything in their power to expand this war beyond your own objectives. You know these two things. Then how do you begin to limit what Israel is actually going to do? How do you begin to stop Israel from progressing this into a major holy war beyond its scope and your objectives, at the same time exploiting the idea and the fact that politicians, members of the intelligence community, are potentially coerced or compromised or influenced by a foreign intelligence apparatus, but keeping yourself completely out of it? This is how you do it. Because the fact that Joe Kent is on Tucker Carlson right now saying these things, it goes back to the same idea of right after we went in, got Maduro out of Venezuela, the next day, I think it was Marco Rubio came out and said to the media and the press that Delcy Rodriguez was our CIA contact that told us exactly where Maduro was. Delcy Rodriguez wasn't the person that told them where Maduro was. Maduro was the person that told them where Maduro was. But by putting Delcy Rodriguez in that position on the global stage, she's screwed. She's a dead woman at that point in time unless she goes down, game theory, the one path that has been paid for her, and that is an alliance with the United States of America. Israel's in a very, very similar situation. Right now, on one of the largest podcasts in the world. It doesn't matter what you think of Joe Kent or Tucker Carlson. Just think of them as actors on a stage doing something. This is what you have to understand, is that the whole country right now is seeing that Israel has certain influence over U.S. intelligence, over the executive branch, and over Congress. That they move the red line, they feed lies into the heads of politicians to align with the decision-making process. That stuff is very, very true. So now Israel being, quote-unquote, exposed, if they begin to progress this war, it gives Trump a way out. It gives the U.S. military a way out. Israel knows this, which means this contains and begins to limit Israel's actions on their next steps of what they're going to do. See, Israel at this point, with this becoming mainstream news and media, it becomes the talking points that are happening, just like the day after the Charlie Kirk assassination, Israel was involved, and that progressed for 6 months after, or 4 or 5 months after. The same idea is going to be in contextual frame here, because Joe Kent isn't going to stop. He's going to keep on going. And what does that mean? It means that Israel becomes front and center in the information war once again. That people in Congress who are not influenced by AIPAC, who are not influenced by Israel intelligence, that people begin to speak up, people begin to say things, and that Israel gets limited in its exposure to Washington, D.C. in and around that time. But it also then, it brings about justification for Trump to go globally and say, no, our objectives are done. The Iran war is done. That's it. finito, gone. Israel has to stop at that point. If they progress past that point and try to drag the United States of America in there, Trump will never get a declaration of war from Congress. And this is one big part of the debate, right? With Tucker Carlson coming out with this information, there's no way Congress is going to align with Israel in any warfare operation that requires a declaration. In other words, what Joe Kent and Tucker are doing right now is boxing in and limiting Israel's next moves. Israel cannot expand this war beyond the point that it already is. They tried to today by bombing Iranian oil fields and drawing the United States into it. The United States was just mentioned. I believe it was the Jerusalem Post that came out with these posts about it. They're trying to force Trump's hand. Trump isn't going to budge. Trump has told us this will be over in a matter of weeks. His last objective, well, I think he's got 2 to 3 more objectives. Number 1 is secure the Strait of Hormuz to ensure that the IRGC cannot control it with the Iranian terror premium. Number 2 is secure Iranian uranium to ensure that that is moved out. Number 3 is to eliminate as much of the ballistic missile stockpile as humanly possible, but also to allow the civilian Iranian leadership to come up and begin taking over power, which we're beginning to see that already occur. So this is, when we say saving Israel for last, this is very, very interesting because now this becomes relevant. That this conversation is not going to go away. That Joe Kent is exposing, whether he's right on the intelligence aspect or not, I just think that the intelligence of why the U.S. So, number 1, I've already said there's multiple reasons why the U.S. was going to go into Iran one way, shape, or form anyway. It didn't matter. We were going to go in there. We're just looking for the right opportunity because we had to. It's not about yesterday's conflicts. It's about tomorrow's war. We had to control the Straits of Hormuz. We have to control that oil center and that uranium. It was a must. And this just brings about the pretext to allow that to happen. Okay. But the intelligence was good. Joe Kent doesn't know that. So he's going out there on information that he doesn't know, stating things that he believes to be true, but are actually not true. But then at the same time, he's dropping the truth bombs of how Israel actually functions within our government. And that's the key. And that's the big key, because that then exposes the Israeli agenda, that exposes the control that Israel has over political fronts in the United States of America, and then boxes them in and limits them on their next moves of what they were about to take within Iran. Huge. If you're paying attention, it's huge. Now, what did John Ratcliffe have to say about all this today? 12 seconds. He's asked a question. Let's listen to it.
That's absolutely correct. I think Iran has been a constant threat to the United States for an extended period of time and posed an immediate threat at this time.
And he said it right there. He thinks Iran posed an immediate threat. And you got to remember, DNI Tulsi Gabbard was actually grilled about this today. And she says, it's not my decision of whether that determination is to be made. It's the president's. And the senator's like, no, it is your determination. No, she says, no, it's my job to give him all of the intelligence and our assessment. And then the president makes the decision. And that's absolutely true and correct. Now, this is where things get interesting, because Ali Larijani was the Supreme National Security Council head of Iran. This is, I believe, a civilian counterpart. This isn't necessarily the clergy. And this becomes one of those people that shouldn't have been targeted by Israel. Now, he was killed yesterday by Israel in airstrikes. Mossad killed this guy. Look what he wrote 3 days ago, 2 days before his death. I heard that the remaining members of the Epstein's network have devised a conspiracy to create an incident similar to 9/11 and blame Iran for it. Iran fundamentally opposes such terrorist schemes and has no war with the American people. He's talking about Israel. He's saying, he's correlating. The Mossad was the actor behind Epstein, as well as the ones that perpetuated 9/11, and they're planning another false flag operation to draw the United States in the world into a deeper war. And he was killed 2 days later for that. Unbelievable. All right. We're gonna do a quick transition. 1 second. Let me read this off and then we'll jump in. All right, parents, real talk for a second. America is about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the idea they fought for still matters today. The guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising kids who know where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. And the best part, it's completely free with a special offer. You just need to pay the $2 for shipping and processing. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is yours for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. All right. So when we start to look, Joe Kent, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, that side. And then we come over here and we have Trump and is Donald Trump's 5D chess moves, 3D chess moves. I don't fucking care how many D it is. Donald Trump is playing multidimensional chess. He is looking strategically at the global stage and saying, hey, I got to safely secure the future of the United States of America for the American people, for our country and our way of life, for all our culture. That primary aspect is number one, decimating and destroying the globe of influence that has controlled the United States of America and other nations around the world for a very, very long time, financially, economically, politically, socially, and culturally. That is the old guard, decimating them. At the same time, I got to limit the accessibility of China to computational power and to energy so that they don't obtain artificial superintelligence before they do, because if they do, then we're done as well. At the third level, I have to go about and I have to secure natural resources, accessibility to resources, corridors around the world. We got to get rare earth minerals. We got to get energy. We got to get uranium. We got to get oil. And we got to do this in a structured format to where we are showing a level of force never seen before that provides a deterrence for anybody else to never fuck with us again. But in the midst of all that, we have to expose various control factions that have influence over Washington, D.C., and we have to eliminate that influence at the same time. Wow. That's mind-blowing. That's what we're seeing happen right now. And one of the other parts of this is what? Steve Bannon, the main thing the Chinese Communist Party, John Solomon's reporting is that the Chinese Communist Party was actively involved in stealing the 2020 election and got into all the voter files, social security numbers, locations, all of it in April of 2020. The central enemy to the United States of America and to the people of the United States of America is the Chinese Communist Party. And this comes from dialogue that he had with John Solomon. Now, let's listen to Devin Nunes kind of talk about the 2020 election and what's going on with all this. Good to hear from Devin.
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind, John, is if you think back to that time period, you had a almost correlated kind of parallel efforts at that time, and I don't know that they were working together or not, but it was really in that same time frame. So if you remember, this is that time that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Milley, I believe this was in 2020. Remember, he did that weird thing where he picked up the phone and called somebody over in China that said, don't listen to President Trump. And I'm just wondering if this is if these are related or not. But I think, we need to look at what this ombudsman had to say. The committees, everybody needs to kind of take get all the facts first, follow those facts, but then make sure people are held accountable. And I would just look at whether or not these are related, because the timing is quite similar, where you probably had multiple agencies coordinating together to not give the president information.
Multiple agencies coordinating together, not give the president of the United States of America information that was critical to the upcoming election, that China in April of 2020 had interfered with the United States of elections, and the government did nothing about it. Let's listen to John Solomon.
Good evening, America. Happy Wednesday and welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from the nation's capital, where today the top intelligence chiefs of the U.S. government testified before Congress, while senators began absorbing the news that we break on here at justthenews.com. Yes, 2 days ago, we told you on this show first, you got it first, that there was evidence that China had accessed the voter registration databases of American voters, just like they did in Great Britain. In Great Britain, it was a scandal. In America, it was a hush-hush cover-up. The CIA, other intelligence agencies not telling the American people or Congress about it. Today, we've got a new angle on that story. Why did the intelligence communities keep it from the president, from the Congress, from the American people? Well, according to the intelligence community's ombudsman, because the intelligence community analysts on China didn't like President Trump or his policies, so they put their personal political interest ahead of country, and they intentionally kept it secret. In fact, they even used words like vulgarian to talk about their commander-in-chief, who they should have been giving the intelligence to. All of those documents from the intelligence ombudsman, as well as the intelligence analyst reports that are the basis of our story, available at justthenews.com.
Huh. So not only is China implicated in this, but people within the U.S. DOD intelligence community are implicated. Now, someone told me to go look at Trump's post. I'm going to look at Trump's post, and when I do, you're going to see a big smile come on my face and all of your faces, because you'll see why in a second. Let's play this, and then we'll get into the Trump's post that he just posted.
There are scores of raw intelligence reports that show Chinese meddling in the American election, and there's one report raising concern that Ukraine was engaged in a plot to do something bad in the 2024 election to help Joe Biden. I want to repeat that. There is intercepted intelligence that the Trump administration has had for many, many months, in which it is suggested by Ukrainian officials that they're going to try to help Joe Biden win the election using American taxpayer money. There are scores of raw intelligence.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to zoom out a little bit. The time frame of what intelligence that he is talking about correlates to around May and June 2024. What happened in July 2024? Butler. Remember, there's three countries that were associated with the assassin, would-be assassin of Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The guy that had no silverware in his apartment building, his trash had been taken out, and his apartment was completely spotless. And what country did we name back in the day? Ukraine. I want to show you guys something here. So, when this information broke this morning about the Israel launched this attack, Trump, right here. So I posted this 5:02, but I posted another one earlier. Let me actually bring that one up too. There's that one right there. And I want to bring up these two posts because I want you to see something. And this is actually pretty fucking cool. Where is it? Seven hours ago. So I started talking about this morning. Okay. Israel is the one hitting Iranian gas and oil infrastructure. Why? Trump said don't and wanted Israel last week by sending Kushner and Witkoff. Israel wants an all-out war, ground invasion. Trump has other plans. Israel can't survive this war alone. They need. So we said that, right? Then earlier today, I posted this one. Israel launched this attack, and then it was reported that the U.S. took part in it. And I said right here, Trump knew nothing about it and is livid that this happened. I just reported that to you guys. I wrote this post hours ago. I want to pull something up for you. Donald Trump on Truth Social just a few minutes ago. Posted 13 minutes ago. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of a whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack. What did he say? The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved in it, nor did it have any idea what was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked the portion of the South Pars of the Qatar's LNG gas field. Then Trump says this, all capital letters. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran otherwise decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with and without or the help and consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount in strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications it'll have on the future of Iran, but if Qatar's LNG is attacked again, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention on this matter, Donald J. Trump. Told you. Fucking called it. Now, to that point, what did Trump just do? He backed up an ally, Qatar. We have a defense cooperation agreement with Qatar. He just backed up Qatar and said, if you touch Iran, if you touch Qatar again, we're going to fuck you up. But he also said, Israel will not bomb your infrastructure again, I assure you. So he limited Israel and backed up one of Israel's enemies. I wouldn't say enemies, but someone that Israel isn't very likable with. In other news, the House passed a bill requiring automatic deportations of illegals who commit welfare fraud, 231 to 186. If this can get through the Senate, it's going to be absolutely huge. I think that it actually can. And then, in other news, the White House has officially registered the URLs alien.gov and aliens.gov. And they came out and they put little alien symbols about, you'll soon find out what this is about. Ooh, I'm excited. We're going to see what that's all about. I kind of know what it's all about, but. Well, if you want to know what I know, at least in the context that I can tell you, about the UFO, UAP, alien disclosure stuff, and maybe even some of this other stuff that we talked about tonight, you need to go to the Q&A Zoom that I'm going to be holding in about 5 minutes from now. By the way, General Kwas, we had to reschedule. He had gotten another guest before me, and there was just a little bit of communication error, but we were rescheduling, so I talked to him today, and so we will be doing our show, and I'll let you guys and keep you guys updated on that one. But if you do want to get in on that live Q&A, this is where you do it. And so socialredpill.com, that's direct and immediate. You can get direct access to the Zoom right there. That's our private social network. YouTube membership, Locals membership, Substack membership, or X subscriptions, all of those work. You just go in there, you pay that $5 or whatever it is, and you get that subscription. And then right after this show, I'll be putting a link out in the premium members chats on all of those platforms, where you will get that link and you can just join up and you can ask me all the questions you want about what I know about UAP disclosure and what I know of what is going to happen and why it's happening and how it's going to be controlled and what we're actually going to learn. So you guys want to check that out, go over there. And if you want to find that website that I just had up there, it's really easy. And if you guys don't know my website by now, man, come on. Redpills.tv, REDPILLS.tv. Now, unfortunately, I was not paying attention to any rants. That's kind of shitty on me. I didn't have the little app thing that Alpha usually opens up for me. I didn't have that active, so I apologize. I did see a few of them come in. Don't forget to hit that smash button. Get us trending again on that leaderboard over there on Rumble and on YouTube. YouTube, you guys are killing it. You guys are absolutely demolishing it. And I appreciate you so much. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube by starting this year with like, I think 2,000 or 3,000. So we did have a transfer, $25 USDT on Ethereum to our Rumble wallet. So whoever gave that, thank you so much. I appreciate you. You guys are amazing. And tomorrow night, regular show, no Tammy tomorrow night. So Tammy is on vacation. So no Tammy tomorrow night. I think Gabe's going to join me just for a little while, but it's going to be a regular Daily Dose show. So no tech talk necessarily tomorrow. Jeff will be back Friday, as well as I will be back Friday. And then Thursday night as well, we have Overwatch and The Guardian. I do believe that we have a guest tomorrow, and I don't want to confirm before he confirms, but we will be talking about, this might give it away, the secret space program. So maybe you guys can understand who that guest might be. Much love, respect. God bless, guys. Take care. Have a great night. And I will see you guys in the Q&A right after. And by the way, the links are right here. And if not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies a fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see, the silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time, now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!